All right, everybody. I have Mike Lampert on, founder of New England Truck Center, that is now responsible for growth through acquisition of the company. In 2024, he recently recapitalized the business, now maintains a minority ownership. For those that don't know, a recapitalization is basically an adjustment of the debt to equity ratio. So Mike was recently bought out and now just solely focuses on growth through acquisition at a higher level. Super excited to have him on. New England Truck Center now owns 6 locations across New Hampshire and Maine. So today we're going to focus a little bit on how he thinks about acquisition, how he's approached it, how he's financed it, those types of things. Strategic thinking, decision-making, practical experience is kind of going to be the theme of this podcast. So Mike, let's hop into it. Tell us a little bit about your story, and then we'll start with some questions.
Well, third generation in this business. Kind of said I'd never do it, but here I am. Like to say I got tricked into it after college. I bought my father out in 2012.
Okay.
And I want to say back then we had 9 full-time employees, counting myself and him. And now we're approaching 130.
Wow. Good for you.
So it's definitely not what it was by a long shot. Right now, our main focus, we do towing, heavy truck repair. We build and sell tow trucks. The brand is NRC we represent. They're the 3rd largest in the world. They're based out of Canada. And our focus is growing the towing side of the business through acquisitions, mostly, some organic, but mainly acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
So our focus is New England and upstate New York, I guess, overall.
Okay. Great. So you spend most of your time focused on that. Obviously, with 130 employees, managing that many folks must be challenging too. Are you spending a decent amount of your time on that as well?
I'm not. We have a great team here.
Good.
I am not that involved in the day-to-day. I would say I coach, I teach, I help oversee the high-level stuff. It's just stuff that comes natural after doing this for 25 years.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's kind of jump into the strategic rationale behind growing, why it's important. A lot of times, I speak with a lot of people across the industry and the automotive aftermarket in general, and some are hyper focused on growth. Some are okay with their businesses kind of being like a cash cow and remaining flat. So want to understand why growth is important to you, and then we'll jump in.
Well, growth is important to me because at the end of the day, we want to offer more options and for our employees, really, and for our customers. This industry typically hasn't been looked upon as like a career. It's slowly changing. Mm-hmm. I think as we grow, we have more opportunities for the employees to make more money, expand their roles, learn new skills. And honestly, with our growth in the geographic region of all of New England, if someone wants to move or needs to move, whether it's a family reason or they just want to, they don't have to switch jobs.
Yeah.
We can transfer them into a different location. Because we don't want to lose any good employees by any means. That's our main asset.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's important. Thanks for bringing that perspective there. There's 2 ways to grow, right? One's through new products and services, or in kind of, I guess, adding locations, and then another way is through buying those profits or buying those new products and services or buying those new customers. How do you think about that? How do you think about going and setting up a greenfield location versus buying another established location?
Obviously organic growth is long-term more profitable, I think, but it takes a while to get there. There's something to be said about if you can find the right acquisition that has a good team, good equipment, a good core base of business, and you buy them at a fair number that everybody's happy with, you have instant income. You're running, you hit the ground running instead of crawling and walking and getting up to speed.
Are you keeping the same logos on the building, or are you rebranding?
No, I guess we'd like to say we're a house of brands right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So we right now we're running 1, 2, 3, 4 different brands.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of a lot of the folks we work with, just small family businesses, are really concerned about their legacy. So, right, even if they have, like, we go and get them a good offer, they're really concerned to make sure that sign stays on the building. Sometimes when the larger groups like Fleet Pride or whoever acquire them, that sign changes, and it's important to them.
No, and I hear that all the time, and I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of these guys, the towing world has historically always been mom and pop family businesses, and
yeah,
it's blood, sweat, and tears that built it, and they don't want to see their name go away. And honestly, that if we're buying them, their name has value. They have a place in the market.
A brand,
we keep their name. We keep, the trucks are branded theirs. They'll still say, a division of New England Truck Center, so we're legally DOT stuff. We can keep stuff all together, but it ties our brand in with theirs, and for us, it works.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, what percentage of acquisitions is your growth strategy right now?
It's probably 75%, 80%.
Okay. And then what about the other 25% or 20%? What are you doing there?
We're adding on where we can add on.
So products and services?
Yeah. Say we do an acquisition somewhere and they're mostly police towing. Well, we do really good at road service and commercial accounts. We can easily add that in over there. We also do a lot of transportation for construction companies like the United Rentals, Sunbelt, stuff like that. So we're pretty good at what we do. I like to think we're really good at what we do. Our customers love us. And if we open up another location, we can usually approach them and they're like, yeah, if you can help out this location from your new location, we can put 2 trucks on as soon as you can start. So that's where I'm looking at, we add on our organic that way. We've really only done one where we took another location and started going from it, but I don't want to say it's cheating, but it's a lot easier to acquire the right company and just start going with it.
Yeah, I hear you. About probably 20% of our client base across Focus Investment Banking is doing buy-side acquisitions, helping people acquire. So the way we usually work is starting with kind of a target list of criteria and say, hey, like, what do you need to acquire? What do you want to see in the business? That type of thing. And it can be a very detailed and kind of tedious process to find those right acquisition targets. How do you think about that in the industry? How do you think about what that right acquisition target looks like?
To be honest, I keep a list that's constantly evolving. I mean, I've been in the industry long enough. You get a really good feel of who's doing what. It's amazing. You can tell I'm usually really close with what I think they do for revenue and what they do for EBITDA. It's kind of scary sometimes how accurate that is from a guess, but it's just I've been doing it so long. So we try to find the ones that are the right size. The 1 and 2 truck operations, unless it's really strategic, it almost doesn't work for us. It's too small.
And you don't have to share it here if you don't want to. Are you looking for a certain revenue or EBITDA number?
No, it's a pretty wide range. We like to see them $1.5 million up, but we would look at $1 million. I don't know that I would. Yeah, an EBITDA. I don't know if I would. We would look at. Put it this way: we'll look at everything, and it depends on where it is and if it makes sense. But what I've noticed too is the smaller companies, you're just not going to get the sale price that makes anybody want to jump and do anything if they're not making any money.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys, unfortunately, the small businesses, no matter what anyone says, they're pulling a lot out and they can't keep track of it. So there's figuring out the add backs is very hard.
It's
Hard
tough.
for the seller.
Yeah. Usually the financials aren't clean. The multiples are 2 to 3, maybe for smaller businesses.
Yeah.
You know, the markets reward larger businesses. And that's part of the reason for this is helping, you know, business owners understand that, you know, whether it's you're trying to grow the business for 30 years or you're interested in valuation, right? I mean, that this is kind of what we're talking about and the purpose of it. So that's a good point to bring up. When you're balancing risk and reward here of making an acquisition, what's your philosophy? It can be very risky. Let's talk about that for a second.
Really, I don't know that we're doing any that I would consider super risky. I mean, we're if it's a good the ones we've looked at, the ones we've done, the ones we're currently looking at are great businesses, very solid, good books, you know, updated equipment, good employees. I mean, there's risk in everything, right? But we do very thorough due diligence. We try to mitigate whatever risk there is, and we try to plan for it. I mean, there's always something. We just don't need anything nuclear. So
yeah, there's always going to be, you know, some type of issue with an acquisition. You just don't want a major skeleton in the closet, which you do uncover. Have you ever really wanted an acquisition and found something that you just couldn't handle?
Not yet.
Had to cancel the deal?
Not yet.
That's good. Knock on wood there, right?
Exactly. Honestly, we got a great team doing the due diligence and stuff, especially financial and insurance. They're pretty good. Listen, there's every deal I want to do, but you're not in love with it till you get through all that stuff. And then you're like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah. Who's doing that? Is that your buyer, the owner of New England, majority owner, or is that your just employee base?
Employee base and vendors.
Okay.
We use, like, for our financials, we're using Cane Crossing. I believe they're down in Atlanta area. Great group down there, very thorough. They're fast moving. Our attorneys are great. The insurance people are great. So, and then the rest we're doing in-house.
Okay. Interesting. That's very helpful. You know, if a business looks good, kind of on the back end, the financials look good operation, good customer, low customer concentration, all of that. When it comes to price, how are you thinking about that? I mean, you know, often there's a valuation gap between what the seller's willing to accept and what you're willing to pay.
I mean, we have our formula that we use. I don't know that I want to share it, but it's pretty standard. We don't negotiate it. It's, hey, this is what it is. In this business, though, sometimes people have a lot more assets than is needed, and we can look at that on a case by case and adjust for that. But really, we use our multiple on earnings, and we stick with that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You know, one of the things too, you know, debt is used to essentially supercharge a business, particularly in low interest rate environments. How are you thinking about debt versus cash flow to make acquisitions? And even if you have the cash flow, still taking on debt?
We're still doing the debt. It makes sense for us. We manage it very closely. I think the team here does a great job with it. We're working with Bell Bank, which they've been great to deal with. And for us, it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. You know, and then explain the leadership team, kind of the board role. You know, how does everybody essentially agree and approve on an acquisition? Is there
we have a five member board, which I'm one member of, and we all vote on it, really. Yeah. Any major decisions go to the board. Other than that, the day-to-day stuff is run by the team.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Integration can be a challenge, right? And, you know, after a group, whether it's a strategic buyer or a financial buyer makes an acquisition, most buyers want the sellers to stay on at least a year to help with the integration because it's a challenge from day one in many cases. How do you guys think about that, and how do you handle that?
We haven't kept any sellers on other than a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So those relationships with their customers, has that ever been in jeopardy? I mean, that could be the biggest thing to manage, right? When you make
Not really, because the companies we've looked at have had good people working. It wasn't, and obviously we need to make sure we're retaining the management staff there. But the actual owners, like we're looking at one now where the guy brings a lot to the table, and we want to keep him around.
Yeah.
A very smart individual, and I think it would benefit the team to keep him around. I guess we look at it case by case. Most owners, though, I think no matter how small of a change you make, I think it hurts them personally. It's a little bit of ego, so it's tough. And you don't ever want the staff to see, the owner bummed out, I guess, for lack of a better term. And we're not making major changes, but looking at it from both sides. You do something one way your whole life, and now someone comes in and changes it. It's like, well, I wasn't stupid, but that doesn't. People hate change.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just before this, I just got off a call with one of our sellers, and he was telling a potential buyer, "Hey, I know you're going to come in here and probably change things up, but the way we've done it's always worked, and I like the way we do it, but I'm open to change too," which is good to hear. But some people really don't like their operation being changed, particularly their sign, and I totally get that. When it comes to culture, I think sometimes culture, if you get more than 15, 20 employees, then you really need to start to look at it. Do you look at that? Do you consider it? I know it's kind of
we did one acquisition. We didn't look at culture, and it has been a hard road. The fit wasn't just there. So we've definitely struggled, and we've learned from that. As we've gone forward, looking at the culture that's there is probably as important as the numbers.
Yeah. And like what if you're able to say what was off with the culture, what was different than
it just didn't mesh with how we do things. I don't really want to get into it too much.
Yeah.
Like it's not that it's wrong, it just wasn't right for us.
Yeah, I understand. And then, I think obviously when we talk about KPIs and measuring an acquisition success, they're all going to be different, right? Each acquisition's different, and probably some are going to be better than others. Are you just looking at the financial profitability of the company, so the EBITDA? Are you looking at the payback period? Are you looking at the potential upside from here to determine if it's successful or not as successful as you thought?
Yeah, we're looking at all that, not necessarily the payback period per se, because I guess that kind of goes in line with what we're paying for the business.
Yeah.
So, but we're looking at their financials. We're looking at what is the upside? What does it bring to the overall organization? Does it make us better? Does it increase, our footprint? Does it work with our existing customers? Can we offer more services? All that is at play, I guess.
Yeah. And then on the back end, from like a technology standpoint, any critical technology that you guys got to have to run a 130 person organization?
Yeah, we've made a lot of changes in HR. We're trying to put everything we can, electronic we can, whether we're using Paylocity right now, I believe. It streamlined a lot of things, just making it easier. We have our software for our dispatch services. We have the different software for shop services, just making sure everything meshes together and gets to the right place. So we have good data to run the business by.
So for all the acquisitions, I'm sure each one of those locations probably had a different back-end system.
Some were paper and pen.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty common.
It's a lot of work to get that onto a platform.
Yeah. So for the ones that you had to sunset, how did you manage that? I know that can be a major headache. not just transferring the data, but just going through the whole process?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hands-on. I mean, just transferring the data, making sure there's nothing corrupt, that goes smooth, because you're not stopping the business while you do it. So it's like it's happening in real time. And honestly, it's a solid 90-day process to iron out the little bugs. And it's training people how to use it.
Yeah,
they've never had to use it.
For the paper and pen businesses, how you know, I would suspect managing due diligence was a complete pain, because probably a lot of that data at the end of the year is no longer kind of obtainable the next year. We're actually seeing that with the current client, but I just want to understand that piece a little bit from you.
Well, when I say they were paper and pen, like they were writing service
taking orders.
Yeah. Their dispatch was sticky notes. Their drivers were filling out paper logs. I mean, they had QuickBooks, but the info is only as good as what goes into it. But it was there. Through quality of earnings, we could verify that stuff was real. If there wasn't, it got flagged, more explanation. We haven't dealt with one that was strictly 100% paper and pen. I don't know. They would probably be so small it wouldn't work for us. That's the problem, is if it's too small, maybe it's just better as you're just buying the trucks. You almost don't even care about what the financials are at that point. Because in this industry, the trucks are very expensive. So
how much are those going for now?
Well, a rotator can be, $1 million to $1.3 million, $1.4 million, $1.5 million actually, for an 85 ton. Your regular ramp truck that tows passenger cars is 150 to 180 grand now. So
are you guys? And this is a good point. Are you guys adding in remanufactured powertrains to these trucks?
We are not. We're constantly buying new. We have our CapEx schedule, and everything's on a rotation based upon what's kind of always works for us. And we're just trying to sell the used ones and upgrade to new ones.
Yeah. I know some of the maintenance around the new ones can also be very expensive. Just the diesel fuel systems, I believe, and some of the other pieces in them are just a challenge. Even light duty too. Like I know the Ford EcoBoost is struggling, but it's interesting to hear, because I know some people take a remanufacturing approach to most of their assets. So,
none of our stuff is that old that I think it would make sense. In our commercial body shop, we do a lot of sandblast paints, stripping stuff down. There's some fleets that they're still running trucks with old CAT engines with no emissions. And it works for them because, say, every 10 years, they're completely going through that truck, and they may put 150 grand into that truck, but it's cheaper than the 250 it is to replace it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have any of the extra stuff. So there's value in that. I think we never did that. And when you get to the newer trucks, I don't know that it makes sense, because there's so much other stuff that you can't repower it with an old pre-emissions engine. So for us, we have our timeline, and we're just trying to rotate the equipment. I mean, downtime doesn't do us any good.
How many trucks do you guys have now?
We have 109 units on the road.
Wow, that's impressive. So you probably have a few folks that just work on your trucks, right? Because those things take a beating, especially.
Well, we run 5 diesel repair shops. So we don't have anyone dedicated just to our own fleet, but we treat our own fleet like we're a customer.
Yeah, that makes sense. When we bring a company to market to sell, owners looking to sell, every single buyer asks us, what is your capacity to add more revenue? So essentially more days, the ones doing traditional service. And they always get the question, why haven't you bought a new location or gone and opened up a second location? What's kind of the one thing that this audience can walk away with on how to kind of think bigger, how to think about adding more locations, buying a business?
Well,
Because
the
it's
hardest part,
scary. I mean, it's scary for them to jump in and finance it and take the leap and take on the risk.
I mean, you look at it and it looks easy. The hardest thing is the people, making sure you have the people to do it. Because what good is a second location if you're now splitting your time between two? You know, if you're really good, I kind of look at like restaurants, right? People that run a great restaurant always want to open a second one and then they fail because now they're splitting their time. So you really have to have the team. And I guess that's another thing we look
Yeah.
at in our acquisitions are it's not just the business, it's we're buying trucks, people, and what's there. Like,
Yeah.
and the people is a huge part. Like we can't do what we do without great employees.
When it comes to, kind of really doing the financial analysis and knowing where you have a good chance of ending up and kind of that financial risk you're taking on, have you guys done that internally? Have you outsourced that to almost a consultant? How have you approached that?
Well, our quality of earnings are put together by outside source, but we're making that determination internally and then presenting to the board, and then we go from there.
Awesome. Great. Well, that makes sense. Hey, I wanted to keep this short and sweet and kind of just get to the point, and really appreciate you taking the time to do this, Mike. I think you're a great example of how you've successfully built a business, 6 locations now across the Northeast. I hope our audience can take something away from this call and try to implement it into their business. So thanks again for hopping on. This was great.
Well, thanks for having me.